Hello and welcome. In today's episode, I pay tribute to Randor Guy, one of the most popular writers on Chennai history, cinema history, legal history, and criminal cases history. Randor Guy was a very influential factor in my life when I began writing and speaking on history. And I owe a lot to him. In the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, when awareness about history was quite low, and people like Mr. Muthaya had just started to make their presence felt, Randor was already carrying on a lone battle. He was writing on subjects that took his interest, and he was keeping history alive. And he had a very unique way of presenting history. He always made personalities the central focus of his stories. He would write about them as though they were walking and talking in front of us. And when we read them, we would come to understand fully all about the personality. He also had a very humorous and a light-hearted way of looking at history, which had a lot of appeal. Born Madabushi Rangadurai in 1934, into a well-known legal family of Madras that had its origins in Nellore and later moved to Kanchipuram, Randor Guy was the son of M. Varahaswamy Iyengar, a very well-known lawyer of Madras. Like his father, he too desired to become a lawyer, graduated from the Madras Law College, and later apprenticed himself under the top-notch lawyer of that time, V.C. Gopal Ratnam. Later, Randor practiced as a lawyer for some time and then joined the share-broking firm of Patterson and Company. He then worked in advertising for a brief while and finally branched off into a full-time writer. He wrote articles, he wrote books, he wrote scripts for movies. He also was a very engaging speaker on history. In the 1980s, Randor began writing about famed crimes and unresolved murders of Madras city and Madras presidency. They found a ready market in the newspapers of that time. In the Indian Express, he also brought out a regular crime puzzle column which people looked forward to reading and solving. And then in the 1990s, he began a long series for Dinamani where he wrote on famous personalities of Madras presidency. Much later, in 2002, this would be compiled into 2 volumes titled Andraya Chennai Pramukhargal. This even today makes for very engaging reading and is a very important source of reference on the lives of various people of the past. When you read it, you sometimes feel as though you've been taken away into some kind of a wonderland. Houses of 150 grounds, each ground is 2,400 square feet, as you know. These days, you can have 2 flats in 2,400 square feet. In those days, it was 1 house in 150 grounds. Lawyers earning 6-figure fees for fighting famous cases, fabulous lifestyles, all kinds of things. And he brought it all in front of your eyes. It may have looked unbelievable, but it was all fact, backed by years of research. When Randor spoke, he never used a piece of paper. He remembered dates, he remembered names, he remembered facts. They all rolled off his tongue. It was all an indication of the hours of research and background work that he had put in. Perhaps what brought him the most fame was his writing on sensational murders of Madras city. This was compiled much later into one book, Crime Writer's Casebook. And today, let me take you through just one passage to give you an idea of how Randor wrote and what was his writing style. The Karunguri parcel murder case. The parcel express, which had chugged out of the Egmore railway station in Madras city at 10:40 p.m. on January 12, 1934, arrived at the unearthly hour of 1:34 a.m. at a sleepy, deserted station. Karunguri, some 50-odd miles from the city. 6 parcels were delivered from the train at this station. The 6th was never claimed. nor was it intended to be. It rested in the goods yard of the station for a while, lying unclaimed, and then it began to stink to the high heavens and beyond. Inside was strange cargo. The body of a young woman, once a famed lush beauty, lovely and lovable and seductive, now gory and gruesome in death. Once throbbing with life and lilt, now silent and stinking. The body had been bundled in a mat woven of dried palm coir, well and securely packed. The parcel was declared to contain personal effects. Personal it surely was, but not certainly effects. Indeed, it was the cause of a human drama both before and after. Who was the young woman, the bundled beauty? Quickly, the body was identified as that of Sita or Sitamal, as her poor South Indian Iyengar Brahmin parents had named her. Married to a cook, Parthasarathy, employed in a temple in Parktown, Madras. And that is how the famed Karunguri parcel murder case starts, as dealt with by Randor Guy. Randor was also an authority on Tamil and Telugu cinema. He was familiar, he was fluent in both the languages. And for years he ran a column in the Hindu titled Blast from the Past, which gave the stories behind several famous films of the past. He also wrote in the Annanagar Times, the Mylapore Times, and in Madras Musings on locality-based histories of Madras city. Perhaps his finest work was Starlight Starbright, the story of early South Indian cinema. It takes the 1930s and 1940s as its basis and writes the story of how Tamil cinema evolved after the arrival of sound. And in keeping with Randor's style, it makes personalities its front ends. Every chapter is dedicated to one or the other of the prominent people who dealt with Tamil cinema and Telugu cinema in the past. So you've got names like S.S. Vasan, A.V. Meyyappan, M.V. Rajamma, M.K. Tyagaraja Bhagavathar, S.T. Subbalakshmi, M.S. Subbalakshmi, K.B. Sundarambal, N.S. Krishnan, and so on. It's a fascinating roster of people, and this was sponsored by the well-known industrialist and patron R.T. Chari. Later, Chari would begin a series titled the South India Heritage Series in his auditorium Tag Center on TTK Road. Every Sunday, to an invited audience, a prominent speaker would be invited to deliver a lecture on some aspect of South Indian heritage and culture. Randor inaugurated the series in 2002, which ran on for 18 long years. Randor himself was a frequent speaker. And finally, towards the end of his life, Chari sponsored yet another, a compilation of all of Randor's writings titled Memory of Madras. Randor passed away in the month of April this year after a long life. He was truly remarkable for the amount of effort that he took in keeping history alive among a public that was quite content to forget all of it. Now about the name. Rangadurai became Randor Guy. He created a smart pen name for himself in the process, and that is how people remember him even today. He may have gone, but his writings will always be remaining for us to cherish and to read and delight over. Thank you very much. I will be back again with you in the next weeks with some fresh episodes connected with South Indian history. Bye for now.